William, hopefully your favorite videographer from Two Hats Publishing. I welcome you to another Two Hats special of community events. Let's look in and see what's really happening.
Well, welcome, folks. Thanks for coming. Just a few technical details. I'm David Gruber of the Metro Dallas Homeless Alliance. So first of all, thanks everybody for showing up. We're pretty excited about having Mark here, and I'm going to let Cindy do the honors and introduce him. So just a few notes. First of all, I want to make sure if you didn't have a chance to grab this on the way in, grab it on the way out. This is in 4 weeks' time, exactly. We're going to have our next hard conversation. It's going to be with Randy Mayu. If any of you attended his on housing, his hard conversations presentation on housing first, basically the idea with Randy is, I encourage you to read the book. I'm currently reading it, but if you don't have a chance to read it yet, when Randy starts, by the time Randy finishes, it's as if you read the book. So he's really good. He does that for City Square all the time. And it's going to be on toxic inequality by Tom Shapiro. If any of you have a chance on June 22nd, Tom himself is actually going to be in Dallas. Check the Communities Foundation website for that. Tom's, I assume, just going to talk about his work in general. And what we're going to do with the hard conversation is Randy's going to zero in specifically on how it pertains to homelessness. And we're hopefully going to have Reverend Michael Waters and Larry James, who I'm sure most of you know, and they're going to be joining him for the Q&A session just to touch upon the subject a little bit more. If you are sitting here and you RSVP'd, then you are already on our mailing list. You are mine forever until you unsubscribe. Hopefully you don't. But if you're not, grab one of these on the way out and text, and you will automatically be signed up to get all of our fabulous information, our e-newsletter, and all of our announcements. And finally, outside, we've just got a basic handout. If you don't know what we do, by the time you read this two-page thing, you've got it committed to memory. Okay, I'm going to get out of the way, and Cindy Crane, my boss, is going to introduce Mark.
Thank you, David. This is I'm really excited about today. When I go anywhere and someone starts talking in anywhere, even I'm on vacation like I was over the weekend, and there's someone who's homeless there, and someone says something, and someone says, "Hey, Cindy, don't you do homelessness?" And then I start to tell the story, and within minutes I say, "Boy, I sure can tell you got passion about that issue." I'm telling you, my passion, it just pales in comparison to our speaker today. I met Mark in 2014 at the Health Care for the Homeless Conference. He was a keynote, and he also did a session on how to tell someone's story and homelessness. Another thing I love so much about Mark is he's a gadget guy. Technology, everything. He's the latest, he's the first. I started following his Twitter, Hardly Normal. It's got Animal from the Muppets as his icon, or avatar, whatever they call it in Twitter, just Twitter handle photo. And so it's been interesting to just see the stories. Everywhere he goes, he takes the opportunity to find and visit communities and meet, in his eyes and in my eyes, some of the most interesting people in the world who happen to be without homes, and he records their stories. So no more of me, on to Mark. This is going to be a really great presentation. Tell us your story, Mark.
Hey everybody, thank you so very much for having me. My name is Mark, Hardly Normal on Twitter. If I get a little chatty, go over to Invisible People, which is 100% homelessness. Cindy was just telling me this morning, last time she saw me speak and said that, she follows Hardly Normal, so I must be sharing something that's right. I don't know how many of you are service providers, people with lived experience, general public, so I'm going to be a little bit all over the place. I'm going to share some ideas about homelessness, and then I'm going to go into a bit about digital inclusion, which is really, I think, fits this library very well, and a conversation that I think is important, because digital inclusion often is now included with poverty, but it's not necessarily included with the homeless population. How many of you have said that you would never do something like move the podium and God, I feel like Saturday Night Live with, how many of you have never said you'd never do something and you ended up doing it? Yeah, right? Well, I said I would never Twitter. And pretty much every photo of me, that's the LA Times, is me. And I said I'd never Twitter. At least now I'm getting other people to look at the phone with me. I also said I would never be homeless. And that is me. About 21 years ago, I sold pictures of my iguana on Hollywood Boulevard. That's how I survived to tourists. Prior to that, I had a great job in the television industry, making sure the world got Wheel of Fortune, Jeopardy, Married with Children, 21 Jump Street, the old 21 Jump Street, some of us probably remember. I never met Vanna White, but I was the guy that got Wheel of Fortune into your TV show from 1990 to 1994. But drugs and alcohol, I ended up homeless. So I think we have a very serious crisis in this country. And I am a visual storyteller. And I think this photo really says it a lot. Because we want to stop and we want to ask that person, what's your story? Why are you here? What's going on? How can we help? You know, there's something inside us that wants to engage, but then we're busy. Maybe we don't have the energy, to empathy to extend to somebody else. There's a lot of different reasons in today's world that we don't stop and get their story. But this is what's happening. We're walking by, and I think there's a serious lack of education and awareness focused at teaching the general public about homelessness and solutions to end it. I know there's a lack because I am the only education-based nonprofit working at a national level doing this. Some of these photos just speak for themselves. Now, when you see a homeless person like this, when you see an image or maybe even a video, what do you think? I was in a church, they said drug addict, dirty, bum. So what do you think?
Mental.
Mental? Anybody else?
I think what's the story?
What's the story? You want to know what's the story? Anybody else? There's no right or wrong answer here. I mean, you know.
Where's their family?
Where's their family? Great stuff. Anybody else? Compassion, as somebody said? Yeah. Great. So these are images of, you know, chronic homelessness. But, you know, there's stories behind these images. There's stories behind people. This is Randy. When I met Randy, he had been looking for work for 4 years. This is Dale. Dale did 2 tours of Vietnam. He said all he was getting from the VA was coffee and donuts. This is Rashid. Rashid was at the World Trade Center at 9/38 on 9/11, worked construction for 4 years, developed health issues, lost his job, lost his apartment and living in a park in New York City. This is Dale. Dale is was an engineer. A drunk driver hit his wife's car, killed his wife and his daughter. He started drinking and was on a tailspin. When I met him in Tampa, Florida, he said there was no help to get him off the street. She sleeps in her car with her 4 kids. She sleeps next to her car because on the ground next to her car because in many communities in this country it's now illegal to sleep in your car. But, you know, there's this other homelessness. They call it the hidden homelessness. And there's a huge amount of families and children that are out on the streets. These are photos that I've actually took. I worked in a winter shelter, and these are children that as a family case manager, was my job to help get off the streets. So this is the images. These are the homeless people that I hope will stick with you. So when I met this family, this father was carrying the child for hours. I mean, I was in a homeless shelter, and it was just really special. I mean, can you imagine raising kids in a homeless shelter? And he was just carrying the child so the feet never touched the floor while I was there. Very special moment. When I was in Nevada, and I was interviewing the Nevada Partnership of Homeless Youth, and I asked them what their biggest problem was. And they said families downsizing. And I was like, you downsize your car. Families downsizing? So Nevada was number 2 in the economic crisis, getting hit with mortgage and bankruptcies. So families were losing their house and moving into a 1-bedroom apartment and having to kick out their oldest children. That's families downsizing. It really didn't stick with me until I met her in a shelter in Detroit, and her mother had just dropped her off. So this is Sergey. Sergey is his 18th birthday and his first day homeless. So I'm about to play you a video that I recorded many, many years ago. And it's one of the first videos, and it's one of the videos, I mean, every person I meet sticks with me, but Angela changed me. And it's not the greatest quality of video. She's under a bridge in Atlanta, but I'll tell you why after.
Angela, you're here in Atlanta, Georgia, under a bridge. You're living out here homeless. What's it like?
Not good. But I'm surviving. I'm living.
How do you survive?
I believe in God.
God takes care of you.
Yep.
How long have you been under this bridge?
I'm not sure.
How do you occupy a day?
Go to church.
You go to church. What else?
I pray.
What's your future like?
I have somewhere to stay soon.
If you had 3 wishes, what would they be?
Good question. I'm not sure.
You're not sure? Well, thank you very much for talking to me.
You're welcome. Y'all have a good day.
You too, Angela.
So Angela's video, to me anyways, is pretty moving, but it's what happened behind the scenes that really changed me. I was with a church group, and you don't have to be a medical professional to know that Angela's dying underneath that bridge. And I turned to them and I said, "What are you doing for her?" And they said, "We're bringing her sandwiches." And it was at that moment, and they, good intentions. It was at that moment when I realized that sandwiches aren't enough. It's housing, jobs, and health services, housing, jobs, and health services, housing, jobs, and health services. Maybe your support level is just baking chocolate chip cookies. And I actually know a mom and her daughter that bake chocolate chip cookies, but they take them to a homeless shelter that is providing housing, jobs, and health services. They're just not going out and handing them out on their own. It's so important, that, we work together and we collaborate, and we're just not out there being lone rangers. So one of the questions I get a lot about Angela is if I know how she got there. And I don't, but this short cartoon might give some insight.
Elizabeth was born on a Monday in the early morning hours. Her parents nicknamed her Beth and loved her more than life. Beth always knew she would be a famous artist and the entire world would love and adore her. Then one day, something terrible happened to Beth's mom and dad, and Beth never saw them again. She was shuffled from house to house and school to school, never attached to anything or anyone. When Beth was 17, she got a job in a small apartment she could barely afford. She took the bus to work and every night would head home alone to her little apartment to paint until late into the night. One morning, Beth woke up and she was very sick. Beth finally saw a doctor who prescribed her some medicine. It was very expensive. Beth searched for a job closer to her apartment, but there were none to be found. She started selling her belongings, even her mother's jewelry. But the bills piled up and up and up. Beth lost her phone, her lights, her heat, and eventually her home. She asked for work. She asked for money. Then one day, she stopped asking for anything.
Man, that video messes me up every time. My goodness. So, something else about my story I didn't share. So, I'd rebuilt my life back to a 3-bedroom house, new car in the garage, 780 credit score, success on the horizon, and the economy tanked. And I lost everything again. So I'd get a job and lay off, get a job, lay off, get a job, lay off, right around 19 months of unemployment. I grabbed a camera and I went out and I started empowering homeless people to share their own story. And if you can get anything from this, I mean, all I had was a bag of socks. At the time when I first started, I would get them from bowling alleys. In California, you do the flip-flops and they always have socks when you rent socks. So they would give me them and I would wash them and that's how I got my first bags of socks. A phone, iPhone, and Twitter. And I took a $45 and hacked out a WordPress website. And what I mean by hacked out is I changed a photo. That's about as techie as I get. But if there was one thing that I could leave you with is that whatever resources you have is far more than what I had at the time. And pretty amazing. So I started traveling all around the country, interviewing homeless people. And I also said I would never drive. I hate driving. And in 2009, I drove around the country. 2010, I said I'd never do that again. 2010, I drove across the country. In 2011, the Canadian government had me go to 24 cities in Canada. So I started in LA and drove all around. But I started to get these little nuggets that I was on to something. So this is actually from America's Next Top Model. And this girl writes in their forum, I was taught to call homeless people bums, to ignore them, to be afraid of them. Because of invisible people, I've learned they're like everyone else and they need help, not to be ignored. So I kept on getting these little signs to keep on going. Los Angeles Fire Department, they're not just getting cats out of trees, man. These guys are, men and women are risking their lives every day. I mean, I highly recommend checking out their Flickr feed, their social media channels. They're brilliant. Mark, you humble us to the point our eyes leak. You're among the greatest examples that any of us could follow. And please, I'm not trying to pat myself on the back here. I'm trying to show influence. All I have was a bag of socks, an iPhone, megaphone and a camera. I'm unemployed, without income, and here's Los Angeles Fire Department encouraging me to keep going. So a few months back, I was working in LA, and they tweeted as I landed, "Welcome home, Hardly Normal," with a hearty thanks from Los Angeles Fire Department for all you do for invisible people. You're why we love LA. And I got to meet Brian. And Brian is the guy behind the social media feed. A great man. Tweet to him if you're on Twitter. Tell him I'm talking about him. He'll respond back. So that's Nancy Pelosi up on the left. At the time, she was Speaker of the House. And that's me, old, fat, unemployed, homeless activist on the right. And this is Bentonville. So homelessness isn't sexy unless it's Thanksgiving. It's not. And for me to be photoshopped on the cover, now Bentonville is where the home of Walmart. For me to be photoshopped on the cover of the front page with the Speaker of the House, oh my gosh, it's amazing. So Ford Motor Company took my videos for 2 years and photos, and it sunk to their web page for 2 years. And again, my house is going into foreclosure. I have no income. I'm just traveling, praying for the best. And here's a major car company talking about homelessness. I've done a couple of campaigns with Ford. Ford's never, ever given me a penny. They've lent me a car. I paid for the gas. I did the car wash. I did thanks to people like you supporting the work, the oil change. But what I was after was getting them to be a megaphone for them, because, my job, or what I'm trying to do, is to educate people about homelessness. So what I'm after is for their marketing assets to be talking about homelessness. GM's lent me a car. Murphy Oil gave me gas for a year. Hanes used to give me socks so I would go away, And now, last couple of years, partnering with the Salvation Army, have given millions of pairs of socks away. This one campaign reached 132 million people in December. Truly amazing. What's really great about it is it's not about socks, it's not about me, it's not about Hanes, but about stories of homeless people in New York City. That's truly amazing. And at the time, Vine doesn't even exist, but this is a Vine from Hanes, and use them to actually educate people about the real numbers of homelessness. Because our government says it's a lot lower. It's a lot higher than this, but that's all their lawyers would allow me to pump it up. And that's me last month in Winston-Salem at Hanes headquarters. So a lot of good stuff on the horizon. Kenneth Cole has used my videos. Tyson Food has used my videos. August 22nd, 2010, YouTube gave me their homepage for a day. So those of you below 30 or maybe even 40 are like, wow, that's cool. For those of you my age, that's like ABC, CBS, NBC giving you the station for a day. And again, I had nothing. Since then, I've done a couple of things with YouTube. President Obama, Google approached me and asked me to record videos for President Obama before one of his State of the Union. And what I'm trying to show is influence. That through social media and through just really a lot of passion and really caring and really doing effective, empathetic storytelling, that you were going to have influence. So Google approached me and said, we're doing this thing with President Obama, and we'd really like for him to hear stories of people experiencing homelessness. And of course I said yes. And again, this wasn't brought to you by Google. This wasn't brought to you by YouTube. It wasn't even mentioning me. It was really authentic, genuine stories played to our former president. So Gates Foundation has talked about me. Remember when I said I would never Twitter? That's me speaking at Twitter. I was the first cause to ever be invited to speak at Twitter headquarters. That's an event about 2 years ago with the city of San Francisco and Twitter doing some other stuff. But this is the stuff I really love. So I was in Baton Rouge and a tugboat operator said, "Brother Mark, we got 50 homeless kids and they don't have any shoes." That's my best Southern accent. Within an hour, I got them all brand new shoes. This is Don. Don is the first person housed because of my work. A farmer donated 40 acres of land that's now being used to feed about 150 people a week. To make it even better, these are kids from a homeless youth center that go work on the farm during the summer. This is Donnie. Donnie was homeless 21 years in Calgary, Canada. It was so cold. Oh my gosh. At the time I lived in Los Angeles, and I got to tell you, I begged. I came this close to begging the outreach team to take me back. It was so cold. And we went down one more alley, and there was Donnie above a heat grate, 21 years homeless. And the community saw his video and went and housed him within 2 weeks. They intentionally, from the YouTube video, went and found him and put him into housing. So when I did the Canadian road trip, of course, I went and met and hung out with Donnie. I don't tell this story a lot, but a little sidebar, Donnie's Aboriginal, and he had a kitten with him. And it was really a bobcat. And the bobcat got older and it wasn't fixed, and the bobcat mated with all the other cats in the apartment complex. So the case managers kind of like drew straws when they're going over there because there's just this pack of wild cats. So, if you work in homeless services, that's extra funny. This is Terry Pettigrew. At the time, Terry was 58. He was homeless at 8 years old. He's dying of stage 4 cancer in this homeless shelter. And oh my God, he was so wonderful. And at the time, again, I'm experiencing poverty. I'm eating, the Ralph's grocery stores in LA sold dollar pizzas. That's really what I ate. They're like kind of cardboard with tomato sauce, zero nutrition, but that's all I could afford. So I'm doing the poor me's, I'm feeling sorry for myself. And here's a man who spent most of his adult life and teenage years homeless, and he's dying of cancer in a homeless shelter. Often it might take me a week, sometimes months to get up a video, but he really encouraged me so much. I went back to the hotel room and I put up the video that night. And his brother that he hadn't seen in 34 years saw the video because the local newspaper put it on their front page. And Terry was reunited with family, and he had 56 days with family before he passed. Just last November and then this last March, I was instrumental, or my work, Invisible People, instrumental in helping Los Angeles raise $4.6 billion over the next 10 years that will hopefully help 45,000 homeless people. Truly an honor. And that's Kiefer on the right. At the time, he's 14 years old. They're in Nevada, Carson, Nevada to be exact. This is homelessness. They live in the trailer. There's no bathrooms. How many of you know what a PSP is? So a PSP is a little portable game. You play video games, and it has what I call a Netflix keyboard. You can't really type. You got to do the scroll stuff. So it's really hard to even put a couple of words, right? So Kiefer, God bless him, he bootlegs Wi-Fi from one of the neighbors. And somehow he finds my Facebook page. And he starts leaving like these 2 words or 3 words or 2 letters or 3 letters. He'd leave like, hi, hugs. It's just breaking my heart. So his mom contacted me. Now, how many of you know who Tony Hawk is? Right? Famous skateboarder, So his mom contacted me, and his mom said, Kiefer took Tony Hawk's photo away from his video game and replaced it with your Facebook profile photo. So I'm cool, but I ain't Tony Hawk cool, just being honest. It's pretty amazing. So I did a little crowdfunding campaign, and I raised the money and flew up, and I had to go meet him. They hadn't been out for a couple of years, out to dinner. I took him out to dinner. This is his first Baskin Robbins. I don't know about you, but I think chocolate ice cream and housing should be a right. Right? So he tweeted out, "Thank you for everything last night. The best night of my life. Hugs." And Mr. Tony Hawk gets a wind of it. "What up, Kiefer? Please DM me your clothing and shoe size and address, and I'll send you some stuff. Stay strong." So when you're the homeless kid in school, school's all about what you're wearing. And, you got the cool clothes, but you only have one set of them. So everybody knows you're the homeless kid because you're wearing them every day. So I'm making this up, but it probably went something similar, where he came in and said, I'm tweeting with Tony Hawk, and the kids are like, "Yeah, right. Sure, yeah, you're the homeless kid." And the next day he came in with an autographed skateboard. I thought it was cool. Mom didn't like it too much. That part's true. But Tony Hawk's shoes and everything else, it was really great. So this is one of my favorite quotes when it comes to what's going on in homelessness. "The significant problems we have cannot be solved at the same level of thinking with which we created them." These are drawings, not pictures, drawings of homeless shelters in Manhattan, 1870, I think, 1880. This is the Glendale Winter Shelter in 2010. I took this picture. Over 100 years, we're still warehousing people. I don't see much change. Well, one's color, one's a photo, the others are a drawing, but otherwise, we're still doing the same thing with homeless people. Still putting them on a cot and warehousing them. In New York City, and I don't know what it is here, criminalization and homelessness, you might as well just open your bank account, give your bank account to the government. Criminalization of homelessness is the most expensive solution to ending homelessness. Passing laws, panhandling laws, sit and lie laws, clogs up courts, doesn't really help people, but you spend a lot of money doing it. The second most costly is just leaving them out on the streets. Housing ends homelessness. Gosh. We live in a world where there's so much disruption, Airbnb and Uber and all this. In our sector, the only brilliant idea that's come out of the last century is housing ends homelessness. Bam! Gosh, should have had that V8 earlier. But it's true. And this is Lanny. I got to give you a little history of Lanny. Lanny was a veteran. His wife died. He was drinking himself to death. He worked in Air Force intelligence when he was career in the military. He was highly intelligent. He would often blow a .48. So several people, we call them the Five Club, get up there. I would go visit him in the emergency room. I'm divorced with no goldfish. I might as well go hang out with homeless people. And so it took me 4 years to get him into housing.
He's gone. He's gone. He's out hiding.
And when I was talking to this morning, I was trying to get, where did you go?
Whoa. That's him.
Where?
Right here, right up there.
Right up there to your right.
Yeah.
You want to stop?
Yeah, but pull up. Let me just go.
Because you're the one I actually trust.
You're going to make me cry, Lanny.
Because you're making me cry.
Oops. I love you too, Lanny.
I don't want anything bad to happen. Tell me what you're going to help me with. Anything else?
Well, we're close. We're closest we've been in 3 years to get you into housing. We're the closest we've been.
I was a street outreach worker, and our mission in that previous program was to identify people that were particularly vulnerable because of their mental illness or addiction, and if we felt they might be a danger to people, we would take them to Bellevue Hospital. 2 or 3 weeks after the hospitalization, that same person would be back on the street. The repetition of that cycle began to be very disturbing and began to raise a number of questions of, like, what are we doing? Maybe you have a little short-term gain, but that person just spent 30 days in the hospital at $1,500 a day. That's $45,000. We could have bought them a condo, certainly paid the rent for a long time. What we decided to do was to start listening to the people on the street and take our cue about what to do from them. It led very, very quickly to the idea that housing is the most important thing to a homeless person, regardless of mental illness or addiction or anything else. And once they're housed, they'll consider it. Maybe treatment, maybe reconnecting with family, maybe having their kids come back, maybe looking for a job. But the first response was always housing.
Here we are in Lanny's new apartment, and he actually went and did put all his cupboards and stuff away. That's pretty amazing, man. And how long has it been since you've had an apartment?
Oh, seems like a century.
A century? Well, almost has, because you were homeless since 2002.
Right.
That's insane.
Yeah, it is.
So, how you feeling?
Elated. Very good.
Yeah, it hasn't hit me yet.
I feel human again.
You feel human again. How did getting a set of keys make you feel different?
That I was finally home. That I was finally in a place where I can start focusing on bettering myself.
The remarkable thing was that people did so well. People once housed began to have a life, even though they still suffered with addiction and mental illness. People have a functional ability that is quite separate from their diagnosis, it turns out. You can believe that the government is after you, or that there are people flying in from outer space and they're going to, take over the planet. And leaving all that aside, you can still go, get a ham and cheese sandwich and some French fries and have a meal, or go shopping and all of that. They're like two hands doing independent things. So that was a great surprise, and I think most gratifying was the fact that people can get housed immediately from the street, and they can be supported to keep that housing.
So, Lanny, we got him right into housing, and he occasionally would drink a beer. So does my mom, on his own, no program or anything. But I gotta say something. There's a division now happening between shelters and people that are operating shelters and housing first, and there shouldn't be. Because shelters are still needed. It needs to be part of a system. You need to have a community-wide system that is working together to get people off the streets, into some kind of bridge housing, which is the new transitional housing shelter term, the new sexy term for it. But there is still a place, a very important place, for shelter services. There's many communities, not enough housing stock. So I don't want people to think this is just a housing first conversation. As I said after Angela with the mom and the daughter that baked chocolate chip cookies, this is a conversation about working together. The communities that I see where the faith-based groups, the governments, the nonprofits are working, and the businesses are working together, are having a serious impact in ending homelessness. In the communities where everybody's siloed out doing their own little thing, not so much. Now we're going to talk about digital inclusion. And you can probably tell by my smile and my voice, this is my favorite topic these days. And, I don't know, I know HUD was doing a big thing about putting internet access into low-income housing, which is important. And I do some digital inclusion work around the country, and as I said earlier, it's often not included. The homeless people aren't included in this. But this morning, you could see people came in here and went directly for the computers. As I was talking with Heather, they need to, check their email, connect with family, and, escape from the horrors of homelessness by a Lady Gaga video or something, That's what we all do, so we'll go into that in a minute. But how it kind of all started, and this is Anne Marie. So, it was 2009. I'm going through Chicago, and a homeless woman tweets to me, "Would you like to connect?" I'm like going, yes! Oh my gosh, yes! I'm tweeting back to her. I'm just going, and she's not responding. See, when I tweet to you, you respond relatively quickly because you look at your phone and, Well, I found out later the reason that she didn't respond, which she did respond the next day, is she had to wait till the library was open. She didn't have internet access. So that was my first lesson on the roadblocks and challenges and bandwidth and homeless people out on the streets.
Now, you use social media, and we've connected, maybe 6 months ago or so via social media?
Perhaps, yeah.
And actually, please forgive me, I was coming into Chicago and even forgot you were here, and last night you woke me up on Twitter and said, "Hey, you're here, I'm still here, I'm homeless." Tell me about being homeless and using social media. Why are you on Facebook? Why are you using social media and Twitter? And does it help you?
Oh, it helps a lot. And one thing it does is, kind of like educates people, I guess, to my situation, and helps them to understand more of what I need and what my life is like. It helps me a little with stress. I can do little venting sometimes. I can send a message through a cell phone or on the internet and say exactly what my thoughts are at that moment.
Now, how often do you get internet access?
It varies. Whenever the library is open, depending on my schedule. It might be just for a few hours a day. It might be for the whole day. It could be, a few days a week or almost every day.
And now how do you use Twitter on your phone?
I just do a text message. I don't get internet on my phone, but I signed up on Twitter to access it by the phone, which I love, so I can still get my messages out.
So back when Twitter, was first around, it was really kind of an SMS service. So Anne Marie was able to tweet out using text messaging, but she couldn't engage in the conversation. She couldn't receive messages. I remember kind of like it was yesterday, and it was a real big eye-opening tweet for me, is she was going to bed in an alley in Chicago, and she tweeted out, "I'm not alone because all of you are with me." And I realized, oh my gosh, this is so amazing how the internet can provide, an alternative to isolation, which can also be for seniors. It could also be for people that are placed into housing. Case management, you don't have enough resources to have your staff visit all the time. But connecting people on the internet is a very viable solution. So one of my highlights with Anne Marie was while she was still homeless, there's a video called Twittermentary about a documentary on Twitter that was crowdfunded completely on Twitter, crowdsourced, and they picked her up in Chicago and drove her to Los Angeles, where she took the stage at the 140 conference, which is a major Twitter conference. What was so cool is because I told Anne Marie, I said, nobody knows you're homeless here. So it's completely up to you if you want to say that, if you want to tell people. Obviously, when she took the stage, they would know. But this is the before party, and several of the women got together and, loved on her and hooked her up. But just a wonderful experience. And I connect with her whenever I go through Chicago. She is in housing now, thanks to Twitter. Somebody in Twitter helped her connect to a housing service. She's reconnected with her daughter. Just amazing. How many of you have gone out to eat with your friends and you spend time on your phone? Okay. How many took a selfie this week? Today? Right? How many of you did this? Right? Come on. 4 out of 5 smartphone users check their phones within first 15 minutes of waking up. 80% of smartphone users check their phone before brushing their teeth. The internet has become everything that we do. Mobile internet. So this artist, photographer, took these wonderful images of families, with the tablets removed to dramatize the point. So this is James, and I'm kind of a geek in that I have Google Alerts set up. Somebody talks about me, it pops up. So all of a sudden, this Google Alert pops up of a homeless guy video blogging out of the Apple Store in New York City. I'm like, what? Oh my gosh, that's just amazing.
This is James Christian Jr. I'm here at the Apple Store on 5th Avenue. I just did a video on We Are Visible. I just discovered a channel on YouTube. It's called Invisible People. The videos on it are people who are homeless, their testimony. Mark Harbaugh, I want to congratulate you on your time of sobriety and your cause.
So I had to go down and meet James, and really interesting because the libraries in Manhattan, they got a few people, and so computer time is limited to 45 minutes if you can get on the list. But the Apple Store is 24 hours, and if he can blend in so security doesn't know he's the homeless guy, he can stay there as long as he wants. So I realized, oh my gosh, what amazing freedom the internet was offering him. However, he's tethered to that Apple Store. So I took him out to lunch and we started talking, and then I did a little crowdfunding campaign, and we bought him a tablet. And it was a great experience. One of the true homelessness is absence of choice. And I feel it's really important to bring back dignity, to allow people or to give people opportunity of choice. So took him to Best Buy and allowed him to pick whatever tablet he wanted. It was a great experience. He had to tell the clerk that he was living on the streets. Just an amazing, amazing experience. So we ran up to a little place in Linkard Center where he knew there was Wi-Fi. This is his first photo from his tablet, which of course I had to take a photo of him taking his first photo. And no, the universe, we didn't break the space-time continuum doing that. I visited James a bunch of times since then. I'd love to visit him again. Just haven't been down to New York City. But I would go walking with him, and he would know every Wi-Fi. He would know every store, that would have. He'd like, hey, stop! I got to check my email, because he knew that, Ross Dress for Less didn't, it was just amazing. So over a course of a year or so, I ended up buying James another tablet and another tablet. He lost them. Maybe he sold them. I don't know. I don't care. Because mobile technology and the internet is so important for somebody bettering their life that we can't use oh, they're going to steal it. I mean, they're going to sell it, or it's going to be stolen, or they're going to lose it. You know, if he sold it, he probably needed something that to survive, or maybe even something to make him forget about homelessness. Doesn't matter. iPhones, tablets, connection to the internet is crazy important. So I bought him several. And he started buying his own. And this is the last tablet that he bought. So mobile technology is really, I mean, we were talking about it earlier, about how internet changed our life. Such a drastic time. And I mean, everybody is using mobile technology. But there's something about mobile technology and homelessness. There's something about poor people that they shouldn't have the one tool that would help them better their life and get out of poverty. Oh my gosh. So this was a photo moment. It was supposed to be a volunteer moment with former First Lady at Miriam's Kitchen. And it turned into a huge negative thing when the LA Times wrote, if this unidentified meal recipient is too poor to buy his own food, how does he afford a cell phone? And if he is homeless, where do they send the cell phone bills? And that, you know, and that's, I have tons of examples of politicians and regular people, when they see a homeless person with a laptop or with a cell phone, they're like, oh, that's wrong. That shouldn't be. You know, we need to change that. So this is RD, and RD reached out to me. I was on a road trip, and she was about to be homeless in Los Angeles. And we started to connect over Twitter, and I was able to do what I call virtual case management. And I was able to guide her to a homeless services. So she never slept on the street, but she did lose her apartment.
RD.
Yes.
You lost awareness on Twitter. You're homeless.
I am.
Tell me about it.
In what respect? The fact that it's cold, the fact that it's difficult to find a bathroom, the fact that the people of my community are not only on the streets, but some of them are ill, some of them are addicted, some of them have mental issues, some of them have physical issues, some of them don't have any issues at all except that they lost their homes. It's a difficult place to be. Homeless is not accepted by the standard person. They look at you and go, what are you going to steal? What is it I'm going to lose by dealing with you? Or, oh my God, you stink! Well, that's what happens when you're not able to take a shower daily.
It's got to be hard.
It's tough, yeah.
I was even asked last week, you know, a homeless person, how do you use technology? How do you, I mean, now you're at a winter shelter and I see you there with your laptop. Obviously, you know, people would think homeless people shouldn't have technology.
Oh, yeah.
That's kind of dumb, don't you think?
Not only do I think it's dumb, I think it's prejudicial. And I think it's one of the serious ills of our civilized societies. Because if you're not good enough, you shouldn't have the toys.
Right.
Well, a computer, a cell phone, an iPod, they're not toys. You use them every day in your work. The people around you use them every day in their work. They can't get their jobs done without them. Yet, we, as the homeless, from a huge group in our cultured United States, expects us to find jobs walking from place to place with no clothing, with no decent haircuts, with shoddy sanitary conditions, and we're not allowed to utilize the equipment that you must have to get your job done? Uncool.
She said it so much better than I can. So RD also, Jeff Pulver, who's just amazing. He ran, he's great at creating tribes. And he had these 140 conference, and he would always allow me to tell the story that I'm telling now. And so RD and I took the stage just like Anne Marie did and several others. which is truly amazing. She was homeless at the time. But also through Twitter. This is her signing a lease. So back in 2010, I won one of them Pepsi grants, and I went on this crazy idea of empowering homeless people to share their own stories. So I created a site called We Are Visible, and it had cartoons on how to teach people email and blogging and Twitter and everything else. It ended up being a failure. I mean, in theory, it was a great idea. But the problem was that I wanted you all to see these conversations because I wanted you to learn about homelessness. And I'll give you a great example. So back when I was talking about Kiefer, so Kerry, who's the husband, he was a veteran. And there was a transgendered woman in the UK who was getting kicked out of shelters because she was trans. And here's this veteran in Carson encouraging her, no, they didn't meet, keep on going, you know, you can make it. And, you know, you look at that, a veteran and over the internet, I mean, you guys got to see this. This is gorgeous, you know? So I wanted to create this conversation that was a peer support, but also that a little bit voyeuristic, that you guys would see that these are real homeless people and they care about each other and they're using social media. Because believe it or not, it is really hard to get nonprofits to listen online to people experiencing homelessness or could be cancer or whatever cause, you know. It's just, I don't know what it is. Anyways, it was a failure. And what it was social norms. And I call it the X syndrome. They're connected to their exes, their ex-wives, their ex-boyfriends, their ex-co-workers. And nobody wants to, we're human. We don't want to, hey, I'm hurting, I'm living in a homeless shelter. I was hoping that they would have really organic, caring conversations about the case manager that they're working with. Instead, they were not having any conversations because it was an open. And the last thing I wanted to do was create a closed network. So, but about 9 months ago, I kind of humbled myself and went and created a Facebook group for homeless people. And I mean, Facebook groups weren't really popular back then, or I might have gone in that direction. They are now. It has been amazing. It's been most of the wonderful experience of my last couple of months. And I allow the community, I consider myself a facilitator, because I want it to grow, so I wanted to advertise in street papers, but they said no. So all the decisions I allow them. So here's an 18-year-old, I've been homeless 8 months since my dad died. I am only 18. Just, really amazing. It's been a good day today, finally going to be able to get some stuff done that I need to get done for a while, get my ID today. I mean, people just encouraging her. This is from yesterday. So Los Angeles Homeless Service Authority, which is the big overarching, and this is not a slam against them. They have 45,000, actually more like 60 or 70,000 homeless people. They got a tough job, okay? But they're trying to start an advisory group for homeless people, which is great. I applaud that. What happens is they always get formerly homeless people. And although that voice is important, you need to have people that are currently accessing the systems to get feedback of what's going on now. So I had put in the group a link to them looking for applications, hoping that some of the homeless people, and here's a woman that I know is in her 60s and lives in a tent downtown Los Angeles, and she says, "No, Mark, I didn't see the post. However, my recent experiences with LASA were far less than satisfactory. They promised me the help in finding housing and applying for programs, but never gave the help to me or responded to text messages that I personally sent." I mean, that's the real, whether you're Delta Airlines or Best Buy or, customer service and feedback is highly, important. We call homeless people consumers, but we don't treat them like consumers. We need to listen to the voice, and online is a great way make that happen. So the only research I've really found in this particular area was the Department of Veteran Affairs did a little bit. When you think about it, for people who have very little, if you can have one important possession, why wouldn't it be a phone? It might cost $30 to purchase and $30 a month to keep, but it's portable and it gives you a sense of identity and a method of communicating with the world. I mean, I haven't done this talk in a while, but I usually ask, what are the two things that you would take with you besides clothes, you know, if you were homeless, and that's your laptop and your phone. That's how you would respond. Well, it should be. The Veterans Administration did a little bit of research with using text to remind homeless veterans about appointments. What was interesting is that they figured out that it would save $2.3 to $115 million if implemented. But they never implemented it. So they spent money to do the research, the text messaging works to help people and save money, but let's not do it. And that could be, there's been a lot of programs that have started and tried to really provide cell phones to people, to provide, text messaging and different things of communication, and most of them fail. And a big part of that is there's lack of support, because if I asked you, would you help me pay for somebody that's homeless monthly bill, you'd probably say no. But if I asked you, could you help me make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich for them, you'd probably give me $20. The peanut butter and jelly sandwich, yeah, they're hungry, okay, yeah, but it's not going to help them get out of homelessness. Charity has never solved any social crisis. And my point is really that we need to take action. We need to do something. And it's up to you, everybody in this room and everybody that you know that you're going to go talk about, is change their perceptions on homelessness and mobile technology. One of the things I really love that's happening in New York City is they're repurposing old phone booths to Wi-Fi hotspots. I think it's totally brilliant. But then there's this controversy that homeless people are using them. Go figure. Homeless people are accessing porn. Most people access it in their home. It's not a porn problem. That homeless people don't have home. And I'm not advocating pornography. I'm just trying to put it in perspective, you know. And they could have filtered it out. But it just became this huge issue. So if you're in New York City, chances are you have a phone. And if you get lost or you need an Uber, you're going to pull out your phone. So by installing these kiosks, and I support them. I think it's a wonderful idea. By installing these high-speed kiosks throughout New York City where there used to be phone booths, and not thinking that homeless people or poor people are going to ask them, is dumb in a no-dumb zone. So, you know, as James is here showing one of the phones he bought, you know, it's really a paradigm change. Hopefully something I shared validated how much it has become part of our life, and also validated how much it could help people change their lives. So I always end with Joseph, and I was a case manager, and Joseph came to us and he had maggots in his leg. So the first thing I did was get him into the hospital. And again, I'm divorced, no goldfish, so I think hospitals are real lonely, and I got nothing to do, so I go visit him all the time. And I didn't think he was going to make it. And I don't mean like he was going to die, but I thought he was going to go back to the streets. I'd been doing this for a while, and every sign was, oh my gosh, Joseph's going to be back in the park. So I told him, I said, Joseph, I don't know, moan or do whatever you got to. Stay here. You got I Love Lucy on the TV. They're feeding you every now and then. It might not be great, but it's, you're inside. Stay in this hospital as long as you can. I really tried to get him to manipulate the system so that he wouldn't be outside. Well, a coworker found a loophole in a grant, and we were able to get him immediately into housing. And this is his first stake in 13 years. Look at that smile. So 2 weeks later, I took him out to Bob's Big Boy, and I asked him to smile, and he said no, and I asked him why, and he said, because you're not buying me steak. So I am running a little campaign. This is my 30-second pitch here. Support my work. invisiblepeople.tv/support to continue to be able to share in these stories and traveling. Greatly appreciate any support, even sharing. Really need, if I can reach 1 or 2 goals, I could be able to do this full time. I do this part time. I'm unemployed without income. The reason I'm here today is that somebody brought me in to speak at an event yesterday, and then I just extended out, and I say on social media, hey, who's in Dallas? Want to hang out? And here we all are. And that's all the different ways to connect with me. Obviously, Hardly Normal, Invisible People. The website is invisiblepeople.tv. If you want to see Lanny's video with the Housing First video and share it, which I hope you do, you can find them all at invisiblepeople.tv/movie. There's about 13, 14 webisodes. There was a documentary made about my work, and the webisodes are actually really good. But Housing First with Lanny is the second video that's very great. And again, invisiblepeople.tv/support takes you to the Patreon page where there's a cool video and that shows the impact like Donnie and different things. And also you can get cool rewards for supporting our work for as little as $2 a month, $24 a year. And I need you. Without you, this all stops. So thank you very much.
We've got time for questions. I just want to tell you how easy this is, okay? So while he was speaking, MDHA donated $250 to him. Super easy website. So there are 3 organizations co-sponsoring this, right? You cannot, I think, legally make a donation to the library. But you can make a donation to the Friends of the Library. You can always do that. You can always make a donation to MDHA. And just as I did now, you don't have to donate $250 just like I did now, but you could, right? And super easy on his website. So we'll take some questions. We got 2 mics over here, and we'll let Mark go as long as he feels like he wants to, and then we'll brutally cut you off.
Oh, sure. You're already there, so then you next.
Go for it. Oh, okay. So this has been very interesting to me. I am a volunteer at a homeless shelter on Monday nights. And, well, I just hand people their mail. And I've been doing it for about a year. And I have met the most incredible painter. His name is Edwin Fuller. He goes daily to the Stew Pot Art Ministry. And I used to work at an art museum, and this guy blows me away. So I've gone downtown to help him with his website. And so your point about the homeless people need laptops as tools for their job, like Edwin can't run his art business if he doesn't have a laptop and access to a website. So I was just wondering your opinion. What can I do to help promote his art? I'm not on Twitter. My 12 followers gave up on me like a long time ago. So what do you recommend?
Oh gosh, I don't. It's hard to advise because I don't know the exact situation.
Sure.
You know, my background is marketing, so you're right in my wheelhouse. But it's really storytelling and the channels and the influencers. I mean, if he doesn't have technology and it's not what you really do, I would just do the best you can at networking with the local art community. Okay. And maybe there somebody can lift you up.
Okay.
Can I help answer that question, Mark?
Sure.
I'm Joe,
Please.
Director of the Dallas Public Library. Thank you everyone for coming. You should connect with us at the library. We have a fine arts floor here at the library on the 4th floor with a gallery that
Bam!
Done.
showcase his work.
Yes.
I'm good.
Done.
She's good.
Yeah. I'll come talk to you.
Hi. I'm Pastor Deb Loudon McCann. I pastor a church on Martin Luther King in the South Dallas Fair Park area. And this fall we will be opening a community outreach center with a kind of experimental program for a drop-in center for homeless and at-risk youth, some of whom are trying to stay in school, but they are living out of their cars or they're couch surfing because home is not safe. So we'll be having, we can't shelter them overnight, unfortunately, because of a number of insurance issues and other stuff. But we'll have like a clothes closet and a health and hygiene closet and a snack closet, a safe place to come and hang out, maybe a couple cots upstairs, a caseworker on site, and a computer lab. My question is, what do we need to know? What are the questions we need to ask? What can you tell me as a total newbie?
You have the lead of your CLC here. Did she run out?
CLC.
Continuum of care.
Okay.
So connect with other service providers. So I personally, there's more truckers than there is any other profession, and in 5 years trucks will drive themselves. What I do in marketing will be completely automated in 5 to 10 years. Associated Press is already using computers to write stories. We're going to see the most massive amount of job loss in 5 to 10 years. And where government and everything is cutting funding. So I really believe it's the faith-based community that has to step up. But in doing so, I mean, to do that, the faith-based community needs to start working with the other. So I would connect with the COC, Continuum of Care.
What about the marketing aspect? And you've talked about this digitalization. What are the best, most effective ways for us? We've got a Facebook page for the church. We'll have a Facebook page for the outreach center. I've got a Twitter account that I don't think I've ever posted on, but just to get the information, both, to reach people for support, but also to get the information out there to the kids, the youth, and the people.
Well, kids is a whole different thing, so kids don't like to hang out where there's adults.
Right.
You know? So if you have an adult web page or adult Facebook page, kids ain't going to go there.
Where are they going to go? Twitter? Instagram?
Here's a gold nugget. Provide the best, most amazing services for youth, and they will tell another youth, and they will tell another youth. You know? But I just came back from Traverse City doing the same thing. Somebody invited me to speak. I went and I traveled and drove around Michigan. And there was 24 churches up in Traverse City that were doing a rotating, which is and I think a cool model, but homeless people have to go to each individual church. You know, and they got together and they're building a building. So it's still going to be 24 churches rotating, but the volunteers are now going to go to this one building, and all the homeless people will be at this one facility where they're getting. And there's a facility called the Jubilee House in Traverse City, which is operated by a church, which is the most amazing faith-based drop-in center I have ever seen.
Jubilee House.
Jubilee House. It was low barrier. They offered, which was really amazing, which a lot of places stay away from. They offered storage for people without all these rules. I mean, again, with kids, you don't want a ton of rules. I mean, you know, everybody needs rules. I'm not saying that, but if you where I live, in the community I live at, right now there's an organization that's running a youth shelter that is almost empty because they have too many rules. I mean, it's a beautiful facility. They have just wonderful, they just have a hard-nosed case manager and they have too many rules. The kids are like, you know, God, I'm going to go someplace else. I'd rather sleep out on the street, which happens a lot. So, but great questions. I just highly recommend working with the community, you know.
I actually have a request. So first of all, I work for Baylor Healthcare, and we have an indigent clinic about 6 blocks east of here, and I do free mental health at our doctor's office, and all of our patients are 200% below the poverty line, and they have no insurance. So Baylor funds this program, and I'm just really honored to be able to work there. So we have 5 medical providers who can provide healthcare, diabetes, high blood pressure, all that good stuff. And then if they have mental health issues, then I help. But my request from you is I happen to sing with a choir who is going to New York City next week. And we are taking 20 people from the Dallas Street Choir. Actually, we're getting to accompany them because they're the stars of the show. And we have rented Carnegie Hall and are opening it up for the homeless of New York to come be the audience. So I wondered if there was a way that you could promote that.
If you sent me, I would, but I'll do you one better. So you have a street choir, basically.
Yes.
Okay,
They have 70 members that come every Wednesday.
Are you familiar with One Voice or the Street Rise Opera?
Yes. And I've sung the Street Requiem, which was written in...
I'm on the board with the One
Awesome.
Voice. So if they...
That would be fantastic.
We're trying to build a network of the art community, and when I say art, music, anything creative, as it engages with home, because those programs are being cut for normal people, much less homeless.
Right.
But they bring so much worth and dignity and everything else.
Yeah, the motto for the street choir is we are homeless but not voiceless. So
a little sidebar, because I was doing the same thing that I'm doing here. Somebody brought me into London, and it was right before the Olympics, because they wanted me to do the story between the Olympics and everything. And Streetwise Opera at the Royal Opera House was opening the Olympics with all these homeless people singing opera. And it was just amazing and gorgeous. It was just a wonderful time. I think she was first, and then we'll come to you.
Okay, hi. Mine is more of a philosophy question in a way in regards to the digital inclusion. So I love those images. I've seen them before that you showed with the tablets removed and the phones. I think they speak of a powerful message of how we're disconnecting through digital devices. And so I guess, how do you balance between, you said that internet can provide alternative to isolation, which I don't know if I agree with that completely, because I think community and friendship provides an alternative to isolation. So where do you balance between paying someone's phone bill but not emphasizing that we're actually sitting with them and getting to know them and listening to them and spending time with them rather than just throwing...
We're going to have to set a time.
Okay.
I can stay here for a day. And I get it. And I you know, it's called, there's an organization, a mental health organization, that really talks about tangible social interaction. It's called The Bridge. And you let anybody, it's in Los Angeles, and let anybody in. And you have the worst schizophrenia, and they have the worst. So I've never been able to verify this, but they say that in India, if you have schizophrenia, that people think that you're talking to God and they invite you into dinner. And 30% get better because of tangible social interaction. Where here, if you have schizophrenia, you're in an alley having dinner.
We ignore you. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And nobody gets better. So I agree with the tangible situation, and I know it's me. I sit at home for 2 or 3 days working on the internet, and I start getting freaky. You know what I mean? I gotta put on some pants and go out the house. You know what I mean? And go hang out with people. So I agree with you. But I think fighting the technology piece of what's going on. I remember there used to be a picture of 2 kids. You know, kids used to play with each other, and now they're sitting next to each other on their phones. You know what I mean? And fighting that. But as adults, we always look at the younger generation and say, oh gosh, they need to go out and play, or they need to do this, or they should be doing that. They're going to ruin their lives or anything else. I spoke on marketing yesterday. That's what people pay me to speak on. And I started off with a picture of people on the subway reading the newspaper. Everybody. You know what I mean? And now they say this is what's making us antisocial. We've been antisocial forever. Nobody wants to get on the elevator and talk to anybody. We did it before, now we have an excuse. So, you know what I mean? I hear you. I'm more of a practical person. So Lanny, I'll give you a great example. Lanny, and Joseph too. Again, I had extra time on my hands. So as the agency I worked for, we had a huge caseload and we couldn't go visit everybody every day. But when you're put in a housing, you need to have somebody visit you every day for at least the first 6 months. So for Lanny and Joseph, I did that on my own. I mean, Saturday, Sunday, I'd go drive and hang out for them. And there was a lot of different things there. But most agencies can't do that. So if they can connect via Facebook or connect through some kind of online interaction, you know what I mean? To provide that tangible, yeah, face-to-face is better. Yes, I would rather have a hug than a virtual hug in parentheses. You know what I mean? But in reality, people just also need that extension and escape that the internet provides. So that's the direction I was going in. Hopefully that answers it.
Gotcha. Yeah. Thank you.
No, that's really great.
Okay, this will be the last
my name
question,
is
just because we
Christopher,
want to respect
and,
people's time.
I'm currently homeless, and I stay at the Bridge, which is basically a mental institution for crackheads. The city of Dallas taxpayers pay for it, and I'm not really sure if the city knows what kind of crap goes on up in there. I could stand up in here and talk all day about homeless people and what the city doesn't want to do, what the city does want to do, and it's just a bunch of BS. I'm in the process of becoming an advocate for the homeless people because I want to be heard. Every time I try to stand up and defend myself, everybody kind of says, just shut up. You don't want to be seen. You don't want to be heard, and we ain't got time for you, and all that kind of crap. And, homeless and housing, and it's all wonderful, but the city of Dallas, I think, has a big major problem. They all want to take these old buildings and turn them into fancy luxury high-rises for doctors and lawyers. But how about taking some of these old buildings and converting them into housing for the homeless? That would be an option, right? I know that people like to live, fancy and be downtown and have, pay $1,500 a month for an apartment. But the thing is, there's nothing here for the city.
And your question? Your question?
I'm sorry, I'm deaf, I can't hear.
Your question, you were going to ask a question. You said you wanted to be an advocate. You wanted to be heard.
It's just crazy.
Yeah? So my recommendation, and this is what I did, I don't know a recommendation because I don't know your situation, but there's no situation that's perfect. You're going to find, rain falls on the just and the unjust. I can't address what's happening in Dallas because I don't live here. I've been here for 2 days, but I can tell you that there's bureaucracy in every city, and there's good people that are trying. And for me, I was an advocate on the outside. I used to, at a drop of a hat, fight for any injustice I saw. And I would scream and yell and say, "You're doing something wrong," and nothing changed. But when I started working with the system, when I started working with the police and with the homeless service providers and trying to, because change just doesn't happen overnight.
Well, see, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to make changes for the homeless, and I'm trying to get people's voices to be heard and to let them know that we are people. We're not barnyard animals to be barked at and to be treated like crap. Yeah, we may be down on our luck, but we're still human beings, and everyone is entitled to deserve respect. And the thing is that being there at the Bridge, they treat us like animals. They bark at us like dogs and da-da-da-da-da. And it's like, it's a two-way street. You want us to respect you, but then why don't you respect us? We're trying to get ahead. Like I said, we're not animals. We may be down in our luck, and we are trying to get back up on ourselves. And it's just that it's a long, crazy process of what goes on. I could stand up here all day long and talk about what I see, what I don't see and stuff, but I'm trying to get my voice out there. I'm trying to get myself heard for the homeless people to do, and it's amazing.
Okay, we're going to have to end because we want to respectful of people's time.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Mark, incredible. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you to everybody. 4 weeks time from now, same time, same place. We'll see you then.
This is William, hopefully your favorite videographer from Two Hats Publishing. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like it, please leave comments below, or like, follow, or subscribe to us and get notices of all our videos. We love it, even when you call.